Today we're going to be talking about the pluperfect tense. Now, in class last time we were talking about the perfect tense, which describes things happening in the past, and is translated either verbed or did verb or has have verbed. I have walked to school, you read the book, the friends did eat the food, I spoke with my mother. Now notice spoke is an example of a place where English past tense verbs can be irregular, but don't worry too much about that. Since English is your first language, you will be pretty comfortable with those irregular forms. And when we were talking about the perfect tense, I was very clear that it cannot be had verbed. And the reason for that is because had verbed is going to be our translation for the pluperfect tense. Now, the pluperfect describes things not just happening in the past, but completed in the past. And is translated had verbed. Now, what I mean by completed in the past is if you're in a past tense situation in your reading, and then something else has happened before that past tense situation, that would be in the pluperfect tense. For example, if I walked in the garden, that establishes my setting as the past. And then in that situation, the gardener had planted beautiful flowers. So you'll notice that these flowers are pluperfect, this action of planting, because I can't see the flowers in the garden unless they've already been planted before I'm there in the past. So, let's do an example in Latin as well. So, I was reading. Let's make it second person. You were reading a book with two O's. That would be legebas, our imperfect tense, which is set in the past. And the poet had written the book. We have our poeta, librum scripserat. In the pluperfect. Let's put two and librum to complete our sentence example. Now you can't read the book before it's been written. So if you're reading the book in the past, which we can tell because it's imperfect, then the book had to be written before the past, and that action was completed before you started reading. And that's why it needs to be in the pluperfect tense. A good way to think about the pluperfect a little memory trick is to break down that word, pluperfect. So the pluperfect tense is referring to things that are more thoroughly done. They are fully completed. Now let's look at some forms. Now for our example verb, we're going to use to write, which is scribo, scribere, scripsi, scriptus. Now, just like the perfect tense, the pluperfect tense is going to use that third principal part and remove the I for our stem. And now let's add some endings. There are two ways to think about the endings of the pluperfect tense. You can either think of them as using the imperfect forms of soon, or you can think of it as ERA plus your active personal endings. So the way this would work is eram, eros, erat, eramos, eratis, erant. As you can see, these are the same endings we would see in I was, you were, he, she, it was, we were, y'all were, they were. But when it's on the third principal part, that perfect stem of a verb, it will be the pluperfect form. Or you can see it as that ERA and then MST, mus, tis, nt, those familiar active personal endings. But either way you think about the forms, the translations will be the same. So we'll have I had written, you had written, he, she, or it had written, we had written, y'all had written, and they had written. So just like how the authors of the textbook had written the textbook before you had the chance to read it, and just how the poet in our previous example had written the book before you were reading it, this is the pluperfect tense used to express actions that are completed before a different past action. And we'll do lots of practice with this, the perfect and the future perfect tense over the next couple weeks. Have a great day.